Today I'm telling you a Mexican fairy tale that involves butt plugs. For real. Just when I thought I'd read everything. It's called the Louse Skin, like lice, and it really is just the mwah of off-the-wall folklore. A man makes his living being a woodcutter, and one day he decides he's just tired of it, and he tells his wife, I'm going to go out into the world to seek my fortune. Fix me some provisions so I can eat on the road, and then he just leaves. He leaves her. We will never see her again, just abandons her. On the road, he meets a little mouse that says, can I come with you? And he's like, I don't know, you're mischievous, mouse. And he's like, I promise I won't be mischievous if you take me. So he does. Then he keeps going, and he sees a dung beetle, like rolling a bunch of dung. Dung beetle's like, can I come? And he's like, no, you're filthy. And the dung beetle's like, I'll clean up just for you. And so he washes the dung beetle in a puddle and takes it with him. They get to a brand new kingdom where the king has this sign up that says, whoever can guess the kind of skin my daughter's shoes are made of will be master of the kingdom and master of her, because they get to marry her. But if you guess wrong, you die. But our dude decides, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. I got nothing to live for. Not that wife I left back home or anything. So our dude and a prince both show up saying they want to guess. And so they spend the night there and they're supposed to guess in the morning. Also, they keep saying they're going to guess the riddle, but it's like not a riddle. It's just a secret they don't know. That happens a lot in folklore. Anyway, the night before, after supper, our dude brings food for the mouse and dung beetle, but the mouse is like, you know what, I want a little bit more. So he's gonna go sneak into the kitchen to get more food. On the way, he hears the king and queen talking about the riddle. The king's like, wife, do you think anyone will guess? And she's like, no, no one will ever guess that our daughter's shoes are made from a louse and how we picked that louse out of her hair and then decided to put it in a big pot and feed it 6 to 8 ounces of blood every day until it grew so huge that we killed it and skinned it and made shoes out of them. They won't guess that. I would not have guessed that either. The mouse rushes back to tell our dude, and on the way a cat chases it and like almost gets it. And then I love how dramatic the mouse is. He gets in the dude's room and he's like, take care of me or I'll die. The cat almost got me, and if I die, you won't know the secret. The dude pretends like he's doctoring the mouse because the mouse was not really badly hurt. It was more of just a fuss he was making. Once the mouse is healed, he tells him about the louse skin, and the next day he guesses correctly, but somehow the prince also knows the correct answer. In other versions of this folktale, they're having to guess a weird birthmark the princess has, and in that one, usually the prince has bribed one of her maids to find out the answer. We don't know how he found out, but probably something like that. So the king decides to do what they do in birthmark stories, which is they both have to sleep with the princess every night, and whoever she prefers after many nights of sleeping with them, that's who wins. So they kind of take her consent into account. Some stories are not specific on whether or not they are sleeping together, but this one specifically says they aren't to touch her sexually or ruin her. They are supposed to just lay in bed with her. The first couple of nights, the princess turns to face the prince because he's got nicer clothes, he's nice looking, she likes him better. Our dude tells the dung beetle, and the dung beetle's like, I got this. The dung beetle flies to the bedchamber, and I kid you not, flies up the prince's butt, gets all of his poop, brings it out, and smears it all over the bed. So when they wake up in the morning, the princess is like, ew, he soiled himself. But this still does not cause her to make her decision. This goes on for a couple more nights with the dung beetle pulling his poop out of his butt. And so finally the prince is like, I've never had this happen before. I need to do something to stop it. So he goes to a carpenter and asks the carpenter to make him a wooden butt plug so that he won't crap the bed. The carpenter made it just the right size and put it in for him, which is great service. So that night when the dung beetle goes to fly up his butt, he hits his head on the wood and he's like, oh my God. And he goes back and tells the man and the mouse, like, this guy hurt my head because he's got a butt plug in. And so the mouse is like, I got this. Mouse goes to the sleeping prince, swishes his tail around in his face, makes him sneeze, and he sneezes out the butt plug. Then the mouse tells the beetle, go ahead. And the beetle does his thing again. Only this time he also smears it on the princess. And so the princess wakes up and she's like, you're disgusting. You pooped all over me. She goes to her dad and she's like, Dad, I'm not marrying that prince. Look, he crapped all over me. And the dad's like, ooh, yeah, I support that decision. So they bathe and clean up our dude and give him nice clothes. And he looked even handsomer than the prince. And then they had a wedding feast that must still be going on now. The end. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, there are actually a lot of folklore stories that involve poop because people have been finding that funny since the beginning of time. But everything just comes together perfectly in this story to make it just absolutely special.